what struck me was here I was 20 years after it was written, and I was working for and standing in this business that he had so perfectly described, and it described my present reality of the company that I was working for. And it really blew me away and really gave me a tangible understanding of vision.
We're talking about vision today. Yeah. So vision, another big word, big lofty word. But the thing about vision, usually like a company vision, but there can be a personal vision. There could be, if you're leading a team or a department, it could be a departmental vision. Vision, I think, on any level is so critical, so critical. And so we'll talk about why it's important, what are the barriers to getting it done, and then actually really sharing it and then putting it out there, right? Yeah. But first, like, why have one?
Is the core of all things. You know, I have told you before, I worked for a family business that was 20 years old at the time when I joined it. And
what type of business was it?
Consulting.
Okay.
For marketing consulting.
Yeah.
And execution, all the things, full service marketing. And the founder was still running the business, handing it off to his son. But when he started the business 20 years before, he wrote out on a piece of paper at the time when he had one retainer and 2 employees, he wrote out a document called the Company I See.
I like that.
He articulated his vision for this company. And over time, they printed it, put it on the wall, and it was kind of like a creed, you know, it was in the lobby. And I remember in my 20s, I was an eager employee, and I would just stare at that frame on the wall. And what struck me was here I was 20 years after it was written, and I was working for and standing in this business that he had so perfectly described, and it described my present reality of the company that I was working for. And it really blew me away and really gave me a tangible understanding of vision. What is it and why is it important? Why was it important that he took the time to write that down?
Yeah, and where you stood at that time, the company probably didn't look exactly like what he wrote down, but it probably really well represented what he wrote down, right?
Yeah, and it spoke to, you know, the kind of clients that we served and why we served them and what we were doing for them. And again, some of that, the capabilities had evolved over 20 years, as you would expect. But so many of the core qualities that he had described, again, were exactly the business that I was working for. So when we talk about vision, that's the first thing that my mind starts at. And then you work down, you know, he wasn't writing out our 2024 vision, you know, 20 years ago. There's the macro and there's the micro. But I think just starting with that level of clarity on the macro, it allows you to really start to focus on some of those more micro or shorter term, like annual vision. And
the power of writing it down, though.
Yeah.
That's huge. Because I think a lot of people have it floating in their head.
Yes.
Or it's been talked about, so people feel like, oh, well, everyone knows we've talked about it. But the power of actually putting pen to paper and writing it down is huge.
Yeah. And that is a unique spot that many of us may never find ourselves in, like founding a company, right? Or having that ability to wrap your arms around the whole of a company and have that much influence to shape it.
Yeah.
But what it taught me as a 20-year-old as well is to come with that same level of ownership to whatever space that I am given.
Yeah.
And to show up with that same clarity. So I always pretended like I was a CEO, even though I'm not one and I've never have been one. But I would treat my respective department or my team with that same level of intentionality and authority, if you will, to say like, I want to really be clear about my vision for this space that I've been given responsibility for.
We have a vision for the company at Door Number 3, but recently I was talking to Cameron Chambers, who's our head of account service, and I encouraged him to write down a vision statement, or maybe we called it a mission statement, but I said, for your department. Like, I want to see what you would write. And I know we have a vision for the company, but what's the vision? What's the mission specifically for account service as it fits into that bigger vision? And it was really, really, really cool to see him go through that exercise and do it and just take it on. And when he went through it with me, it just felt so like, okay, now we can do anything. This is really powerful.
Interesting.
And so I think to your point is it doesn't have to be just like, what's the company vision statement, the organizational vision statement. What is that domain you control? You have influence over that sphere. Could even be for yourself, right? For yourself,
right.
And so write it down. Write it down. And one thing that I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert on all the exercises for creating visions, but there's one that I adopted years ago and I'm continuing to work on and refine. It's just simply called vivid vision. So vivid vision is the idea of putting yourself into the future. It could be 3 years from now, 5 years from now. So you'll sit down, you'll write September 2027, whatever it is. I woke up this morning and it's so you're stepping into the future in a way that you're describing and reflecting on the past and kind of through a narrative explaining how you got there, but then stating very clearly who you're working with now, who's at the, like in my case, who are our clients, who's working at the agency, what are they doing personally and professionally that really gets them jazzed. So it's not just company, but trying to drill down to clients we're working with, the people that are working there. You know, Noah and his wife ran a half marathon this spring. Like, I mean, making things up, but, and again, he and his wife may have no interest in a half marathon, but I love the exercise of going through it and just showing that, okay, Noah's still going to be working here. He's going to be working at a place that values his relationship with his wife and doing personal things and stuff. So it's just bringing it all together. And what it turned into is it's a 4 or 5 page kind of dense document, but a vivid vision where we can all kind of read it and go, okay, I get, if I step into the future 3 years from now, I get where we hope to be. So as a writer, I love that exercise. There's probably tons of ways to do that and doesn't revolve around so much narrative probably, but I think anything like that is just a great starting point.
Absolutely. And we talk a lot about deciding how you want to feel and then planning it backwards, right? So why do we not articulate so clearly what we want?
So after we have one, like, why do we not?
Yeah, because a lot of times I would argue that everybody has vision for their life to some degree.
Yeah.
Whether they've even mentioned it to themselves or not, or whether they're even honest about it or not, it's there, right? But I think that we're often reluctant to articulate it or maybe articulate it as clearly as you've just outlined because it's scary.
It's fear.
Why?
Right?
Yeah.
It's fear.
Yeah.
Which I can relate to. We can all relate
100%.
to, right? Totally. It's like you're vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
What if I don't reach this? What if we can't do this? What if I fail?
Yes. And the high achievers, or a lot of our audience is high performing, high achieving executive leaders. And so when you write something down, you can quickly feel like a failure if you didn't do that thing. So it's almost safer to not write it down.
Safer.
Right?
It's safer. Like, you're leading a marketing team. You want to have more wallet share, more brand awareness, whatever that is. The goals are of your own fiefdom. But it's scary to say we're going to do this. This is where we're headed.
Yep.
George Washington with a sword, like it's a big deal. Yeah.
I know it is. I reflect on in my early 20s. It wasn't until my early 20s that I even wrote down dreams for myself. It was really interesting. And I don't really know why. I don't know what it was about prior to my 20s that I wasn't bubbling over with, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to conquer the world. I feel like I'm now currently in this moment bubbling over with a lot more, vision and dreams than I maybe even felt earlier on. And so I got a journal and I read The Artist's Way.
Yeah. Great book.
And she just said, get your notebook and sit maybe for 20 minutes, write whatever comes to your mind, but then start to move into deeper things. And I really just started journaling like crazy. It was that summer and it was like really interesting what started to come out. And I think for me, it was wild to think that it had taken me all of those years to even start to tap into some of those deeper layers and actually articulate with a pen and a paper what I saw for my life, like what I wanted. Yeah. And that was a powerful process. And again, that vision has evolved significantly in the last however many years since then. And it's less about being nailed down to this thing that you wrote down. And it's really more the exercise of getting it out, getting it clear. As Amy Jo Martin often says, giving your ideas oxygen. And so for me, that exercise in my early 20s was about giving those things that were just little thoughts in my mind, or I maybe wouldn't have even called them a dream or some big ambitious thing, but just getting those thoughts out, giving them oxygen, putting them on paper with an ink and pen or your computer, and really letting it start to take shape so that it can evolve.
Yes.
But if we don't start...
It has to see the light to start, right? And I struggled with that with, well, before having a vivid vision for door number 3. Yeah. I think a lot of it is like figuring out my why. Because obviously a vivid vision for a company, there's going to be some amount of growth. Like obviously that's where a lot of people want to go. They want to grow. They want to expand. They want to, their team gets bigger. The accounts get bigger and all that. And I struggled with that for a little while because I don't like growth for growth's sake. Right. I just never have. I'm like, when people say, do you want to have a 100-person agency? I'm like, not really. I don't know that I do. And it finally dawned on me. And someone said this, I don't know whether I read it or someone said it, I can't remember. But if you want a better life for other people, you need to draw a bigger circle. You need to draw a bigger circle. In that, the idea being, where I get like personal joy is seeing the team like spread their wings, grow, nail something, just do really well. That to me is more exciting than any other aspect of the business. But there's like a ceiling on that unless the agency and the company is growing. It's hard for other people to grow.
Yeah.
So for me, like my own personal path on writing Vivid Vision was getting really clear on the why. Because I think if you don't know the why, then it's just I was writing things people wanted me to say. So that was my own journey. It's just like my why is drawing a bigger circle, creating a bigger circle for people to play on a bigger stage.
Yeah.
So we're deserving of doing so because I believe we do incredible work.
Yes.
And I believe that our clients see that and it's worthy of having a powerful vision around. So that's just a little share there. But
I think that's huge because what I hear is being clear allows other people to collaborate and other people to build on and help to shape over time as well. Because if you don't give them something to connect to, it's ambiguous and it's not, that scene hasn't been, it's like a play. It's like that's for more characters to start to come in and to fill it up
That's a good way of putting
bring it to life.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. I came to the company after you had been on this journey that you're talking about, and you were able to hand me a vivid vision. And it was a clear play, if you will, like that scene was set. And so it's a matter of, can I see myself in that scene or not?
That's a great way to, think about it.
And, if you had been hesitant to articulate it or, been held back by these things that you've mentioned, it wouldn't have given me that space to so confidently step into because I feel like I'm clear on what you want and I either want that or I don't. And if I do, then I kind of can work into, well, what is my part in this scene?
Well, you talk about being held back. I think like even if you get the vision down, I think then we get held back by the fear of, we just talked about this, but the fear of actually sharing it out into the world in a way that's beyond your tight circle. That's kind of what we want to talk about a little bit is this idea of a vision swap, right? Which is actually with intention going out, little small story. Because I always like celebrate and get excited about people that do just this. There's this artist that I love in Idaho, Jeff Weir, and he's an oil painter, but he does just beautiful like Western scenes, buffaloes, bear portraits, just like really alive and expressive painter. He was not a perfect person for many years. And he acknowledged on social media that, he was making his intentions public along the way that I at some point want to buy a house like this and I want to be this kind of artist selling these types of paintings at this type of price point. And he was willing to put himself out there and just say, I've made mistakes in the past. I'm self-correcting and I'm going for it. And I'm going to let everyone know this, which I think as an artist is just so uncharacteristic and just really bold and cool. And I admire him for it. But he posted, oh man, I almost like got a little teary. I don't even know the guy. I do have one of his prints. I didn't buy a painting because those are like mega bucks, but I bought a print, one of his bear portraits that I have and I love it. But when he posted on Instagram one day of him standing in this house, in this cabin with his wife and his kids, and it was completely empty and it was just a cool shot of him in this empty, beautiful space. And he's like, I did it. And it was just so powerful because I think those are the kinds of things we can learn from where like you go back years, you see his post about the intention, and then you see him fighting and scrapping every day, like scrappy fighter to get through elevating his work, elevating his price point. I mean, he's now selling, these are 5-figure paintings, he's come a long way. But I love seeing that in any medium. It's super inspiring. And then I'm like, well, what am I doing? Why am I not? Like, good for you, man. That is fantastic. I have my vivid vision here, like over here, like, why not share that? Why not put that, which we've had conversations around and which led to something which we're calling a vision swap. Yeah. Which you can talk about that. What is a vision swap?
So as we look to the coming 12 months and consider our activities, from a business development standpoint, which is such a broad term, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you develop your business? There's so many different things that we could do. So how do we prioritize our efforts? Well, it started with getting really clear. What are we going after? What kind of clients do we want to work with? What do we want? How do we bring that vivid vision to life? And what's our work back plan? And so for an internal exercise, we kept it really simple down to 2 slides, literally on a PowerPoint deck, that one slide articulates exactly the kind of clients that we work with right now. And then there's a row right underneath it that articulates the kinds of clients that we want to work with. Like, we literally pulled logos, put them all up. So it's very, very visual.
It does not mean we want to get rid of our current clients, just saying
it
that
does
out loud. Not at all. The goal, And that's what's exciting about it. It's about helping our current clients grow and then us growing into other accounts as well.
Absolutely.
And that's really what it's about. And that's exciting because it's certainly not remove and replace.
Definitely not. It is, though, for this spirit of growth and a spirit of, we talk too a lot about the fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, right? Yeah. And it's all a lot. That's a whole episode in itself. So stay tuned for that. But this exercise for us was, again, first an internal activity for us to be able to clearly see where we are and where we want to go.
On one page, which is
like a little
the challenge, right?
Dashboard. Yeah. To boil it all down, though.
Yeah.
And then the second page is to an audience of people to define, to start to say, who are the people in our corner that we could start to share this one pager, this vision with?
Yeah.
That would celebrate it, that might say, oh, I didn't know that. Or maybe I did know that, but it's nice to see it on paper. Or,
and when you say in your corner, you're talking about like, it could be clients, it could be past clients, it could be friends of colleagues, people that would have your back.
Yeah.
To start there.
You. Yes, exactly. So we listed out who are those people. And then the concept here is knowing that this is not just us that has this clear vision, but inviting them to start to share, well, what's yours? We would love to start to share this perspective with you and this vision that we see when we look at the year ahead. And we'd love to hear what yours is, knowing that that collaboration is a core piece of our DNA, just knowing that we aren't just out for ourselves to grow our business, but how can we help you? So here's the ways that we would love your support. And then looking back at them eye to eye to say, how can we help you? Is there somebody that I know that you need to know, that you want to know? Are there one of these brands that I'm connected to that I can connect you to? Or what? Literally, it's whatever. It's more so what we want to convey to you. And the reason we're even talking about this is because we have personally been experiencing the impact of what happens when you get clear about what you want.
Yeah.
And then when you make that available, invite other people into that space with you.
Right.
It's super energizing, honestly. Like you've joked about being in your corner, but you as a leader, I think it's important to acknowledge it can be a lonely road when you're leading a company or when you're leading a team. So there's your version of this is going to have to take shape. So it's not us prescribing to you what it needs to look like. But I think we want to convey a spirit of collaboration in this. And I think there's probably more people for our audience, there's more people in their corner than they might realize that would love to hear what they want. And they might be thrilled to help. They might be thrilled to say, actually, new, fresh ideas start to come when you engage this conversation.
I think it's the word we say a lot, but it's intention.
It is.
And I think we've all done this in the past where you kind of have a sense of what, I know someone that they kind of have a sense of where we're going and they're always willing to help. But saying, hey, this is where we're going. And we'd love your support. Be our eyes and ears out there. Thank you. And in return, like totally genuine, I want to know what you're dealing with right now. Like, what are you up? Is it hiring? Was that the struggle? Is it? Because like we're out there, we're seeing things every day, working with a lot of different businesses across a lot of industries. So if we can help with feeding talent their way, feeding referral their way, but just understanding where they might be stuck and where they're going, it's huge. And there's so much willingness, I think, with everyone to have that back and forth.
And the intentionality piece that we mention often is it's a new world that we're living in. Networking doesn't happen the same way that it used to, right?
True. What was it before?
Intentionally.
It was like,
I don't know,
happy hour or events or meetups.
Happy hour. Yeah. And with our virtual world, like it does require a lot of intentionality to have a conversation with someone because you have to get on their schedule. You have to get on a Zoom meeting and you need to come prepared. And I don't know, it's just a lot more.
You got to, it doesn't happen spontaneously as much. You have to map it. You really got to map
it out. Exactly. And so to reach out, to send an email and say, hey, could I invite you to a virtual coffee?
Vision
I'm going to send you a
go.
Starbucks gift card and then be really clear about what you're wanting. And that's why we kind of branded the conversation and it's casual, but it's intentional and it's weighty. So what we want to convey in this is really to kind of put a bow on it is to get super clear, to encourage our audience to do, if it's that visualization exercise, you can literally Google visualization exercises that are so powerful, or you can take the one that you just articulated and literally sit down with your piece of paper and start to paint that scene of your future. So we want to encourage you to get super clear and take action on that. First with yourself, and then to consider, who should I share this with? Who could I share this with that would champion it or that might just be good for them to know. And you just never know what will come
You never
of
know.
that,
And
right?
the main thing is, I think one of the big benefits of doing it, I mean, even if nothing specifically comes from it, is your willingness to put it out into the universe. Because there's certain
Absolutely.
things that we put out into the universe in the past 12 months
Yeah.
that have come to fruition. And I think that there's just some kind of like power there that's worth pursuing, regardless of whether, you're going to get a direct referral or meet. It's not really about that. I think.
No.
And the other thing that's exciting is with the vision, it's fluid. It changes. It'll evolve. I actually have the printout right here. I'm staring at it today of the one that I wrote last year to refresh it going into the new year. So it's on point with where we are and where we're going. So it's just a fun exercise to go through.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
We'll just get out there.
I think that's
schedule
good.
the vision swaps for 2024 is.
Yes, schedule your vision swaps.
Yeah.
Exactly. The last thing I would say to you is to take up your space. So all of us have space that we're given, whether it's your home, your own home, and it might be at work, it might be your team, it might just be those people that you have influence over. I think it's really important to understand the impact that you can have when you really take ownership of that influence that you have and that space and fill it up to the fullest. So just deciding, okay, I may not be the CEO, or I may not be, having the title that I want, or maybe I do, and I'm just trying to figure it out still and wrestling through the reality of that. Taking up the space that you're given, being really clear and being confident to fill up that space. Just that posture alone really does start to move that energy forward and start to bring that vision to life. So I hope that if you take one thing from this episode, it's that shift of your own posture to see what actually is in your control and to really start to take ownership of those things and to fill up your space.
Thanks, Bethany. Great talk.
Great chat.